Foods that were once illegal. Hi to everyone first. Okay, welcome back. Today we're diving straight into something absolutely insane. Foods that used to be illegal. Yes, food. Like imagine getting in trouble just for eating a potato. Bro, what? Human history really looked at random foods and said, yeah, this might be dangerous. Ban it. Potatoes? Suspicious. Tomatoes? Apparently poisonous. Lobster? Prison food? Like, excuse me? So today we're going through the weirdest, funniest, most unbelievable food bans in history. And trust me, it only gets crazier from here. First, potatoes. Yes, the humble potato. A food so normal today that you probably have it right now in your house. But in the past, people genuinely looked at potatoes and thought, this might be dangerous. In parts of Europe, especially France, potatoes were feared because people believed they caused diseases. Not because there was proof, but because humans saw something new and immediately panicked. And the funniest part? Potatoes grow underground. So people thought anything that grows underground must be suspicious. Yes, that was the logic. Imagine banning a food because it looks like it hides too much. And it didn't stop there. In some places, potatoes were actually restricted from being grown. So while today we eat fries every day, back then, potatoes were basically treated like illegal underground activity. Now let's move to tomatoes. And this one is even worse. Tomatoes were once considered poisonous in parts of Europe, not because they were dangerous, but because of a tragic misunderstanding. Rich people used to eat tomatoes on pewter plates, and those plates contained lead. So when people got sick, they blamed the tomato. Yes, the tomato got arrested for someone else's crime. Imagine being a tomato in history. You do nothing wrong. You just exist. And humans decide you are toxic. That is honestly disrespectful. And for a long time, people avoided tomatoes completely, which is insane. Because now, tomatoes are in everything. Pizza, pasta, burgers, ketchup, basically modern life. Speaking of ketchup, yes, even ketchup has a weird history. Early versions of ketchup were not always safe or standardized. Some recipes were questionable. So over time, regulations were introduced to make it safer and more consistent. But imagine telling someone back then, one day, ketchup will be everywhere and legally required to taste good. They would think you are insane. Now let's talk about something truly shocking: lobster. Today, lobster is luxury food, expensive, fancy, served in high-end restaurants. But in the past, it was the opposite. Lobster was considered poor people food, even prison food in some places. Yes, prison food. Imagine going from, this is punishment food, to, this is luxury dining. That is the biggest upgrade in food history. Back then, lobsters would literally wash up on beaches in large numbers, so people saw them as cheap and unwanted. Fast forward to today, and people are paying huge money for tiny portions of it, and pretending to enjoy it slowly like it's art. Now let's slow down for a second and talk about chewing gum, because this one is still unbelievable. In Singapore, chewing gum was heavily restricted. Why? Because people were sticking gum everywhere: train doors, public spaces, infrastructure, and it started causing real problems. So the government took action. And suddenly, gum became something controlled. Imagine that, chewing gum turning into a regulated item, something so small, causing such big consequences. Now let's talk about chocolate. During wars, chocolate became heavily rationed because sugar and ingredients were limited, so people couldn't just enjoy it freely. And in some military cases, chocolate was made intentionally less tasty. Yes, scientists were literally assigned to make chocolate worse. That might be one of the saddest jobs ever created. Imagine your job title being professional chocolate ruiner. Now we go to raw milk. This is still debated today in many places. Raw milk is milk that hasn't been pasteurized. Some people believe it is natural and healthy. Others say it carries health risks due to bacteria. Because of this, many regions regulate or restrict it, and the debate continues even today, which is funny, because humans can agree on almost nothing when it comes to food. Now let's step back and look at the bigger picture, because when you combine all of this, something becomes very clear. Humans have a long history of being extremely suspicious of food. Potatoes were dangerous. Tomatoes were poison. Lobster was punishment. Gum was chaos. chocolate was controlled, and even milk became controversial. At some point, eating anything must have felt like a legal risk. And the funniest part? We now eat all of these things without even thinking. So what does this tell us? It tells us that history is basically a timeline of humans panicking, then slowly realizing they were wrong. Over and over again. And maybe that's the real story here. Not that food was illegal, but that humans are very good at misunderstanding things at first. Anyway, I want you to think about this. If you lived in that time, which food ban would confuse you the most? Because honestly, I still can't believe potatoes were ever considered suspicious. And that's the end of the video, but definitely not the end of weird human decisions.